I'm interested in what people's words say about their psychological states. Words, then, can be thought of as powerful tools to excavate people's thoughts, feelings, motivations, and connections with others. This is a quote from Dr. James Pennebaker in his book, The Secret Life of Pronouns: What Our Words Say About Us. Dr. Pennebaker is a social psychologist and realized that the words that people use in their writing are a powerful tool to help understand and access the author's psychological well-being and emotional state at the time of writing. He eventually created a system called the Language Inquiry and Word Count system, which takes in a piece of writing and counts the number of words used in that writing into a variety of categories. So some of these categories are things like positive emotion words, love, care, happy; negative emotion words, sad, pain, anger; articles, a, and, the; pronouns, causal words, because, effect; self-reflection words, think, realize, believe. And he realized that as he analyzed more and more pieces of writing, the writing of those whose health improved the most showed a high rate of I pronouns on one occasion, and then high rates of other pronouns, she, they, he, them, on the next occasion, and switching back and forth in subsequent writings. His thesis was that healthy writing and recovering from traumatic experiences may involve looking at a problem from multiple perspectives. Part of the reason that I bring this up is because Dr. Pennebaker's work is referenced in a 2012 patent from the company Facebook, now Meta, entitled Determining User Personality Characteristics from Social Networking System Communications and Characteristics. This patent describes just how important accessing a person's personality characteristics are, and gives a slight overview, very high level overview, in how Facebook inferred personality characteristics to then subsequently serve content to its users. From the patent: a user's personality affects how the user interprets events or content and provides insights into how the user will react to new content or to context changes. Based on the linguistic data, i.e. their writing, and other characteristics, the social networking system predicts one or more personality characteristics of the user. A user's personality characteristics may be used along with other user information, such as affinities, to select stories for inclusion in the user's news feed, to select advertisements for presentation to the user, or to select recommendations of actions for the user to perform with the social networking system. Further down in the patent, the company specifically references Dr. Pennebaker's Language Inquiry and Word Count system. The user personality estimator determines the number of word stems, such as pronouns, emotion words, and words related to specific categories in messages associated with the user that are in categories of the Linguistic Inquiry and Word Count (LIWC) dataset. However, any suitable dictionary may be used in various embodiments. So why does all of this matter? I think the as yet untold story of the past 15 years or so is just how much visibility large institutions had into intimate details of individuals' lives. And you've got revelations from Edward Snowden about surveillance of phone calls and texts and so on and so forth. And this points to a level of visibility that, in this case, Facebook, Meta, had into aspects of a person that that person may not even be aware of themselves, their personality, who they are at their core, maybe access to their subconscious. And the reason I bring this up now is because a few weeks ago, in June 2023, a few weeks ago as I record this, Meta published details about what signals, quote unquote, they use to select content that is put in front of a user. Data disclosed by the company focuses on much more benign information and less intimate information than personality characteristics. Describes basic account information, how long you've been with Facebook, device characteristics, whether you access via browser or cell phone, your activity on Facebook, the number of posts that you've shared, available posts from your connections. Whew, so that was a lot. Let's take 20 and briefly review some of the observed facts that was covered there. So, James Pennebaker, social psychologist, wanted to help his patients overcome traumatic experiences, created an analytical system called Luke to determine emotional states and personality characteristics. This system was cited in a patent in 2014 by Facebook about how they inferred personality characteristics to select content for their users. And just a few weeks ago, in June 2023, 9 years after the patent, Facebook releases information of what signals they use to select content for users, and they omit personality characteristics as part of that disclosure. The company did give itself some wiggle room by mentioning that it did not include all of the signals that's used in their algorithms. While we want to be transparent about how we try to keep bad content away from people's feeds, we also need to be careful not to disclose signals which might make it easier for people to circumvent our defenses. So I want to process all of this information and these events as productively and appropriately as possible. And even channel my inner Dr. Pennebaker when he says, words then can be thought of as powerful tools to excavate people's thoughts, feelings, motivations, and connections with others. So with that in mind, let's do some digging in the actual language that Facebook used when releasing signals to see what we can infer. It seems like a good, productive way to handle this situation. First, let's look at the phrase people's feeds. Is this just me, or does that phrase kind of elicit a trough from the old West where a horse and a pig come eat the slop? You know? You give animals feed. Anyways, it's probably not permissible in a court of law, but that phrase really grinds my gears, so I wanted to mention it. What I did want to focus on, however, from a societal perspective, from trying to convince people from a wide array of backgrounds that these sorts of practices by the company have got to end immediately, and we've got to know what actually went on, and they've got to be much more forthright in what the operations of their company are. I'm looking at the phrase circumvent our defenses. They don't say much about what they're defending and how they're defending it. But if we look at some of their recent actions, we can get a clearer picture. I'm not going to get into the full details. I'm going to dive deeper into this in a subsequent episode. But I did want to mention it here just to sort of set the stage there for the next episode. Because when the company says, oh, we can't release that, it would circumvent our defenses. Those defenses are protecting the company bottom line, which is probably not that surprising. But when we're talking about these intimate pieces of information about people, they've got more responsibility than, say, if they were selling widgets. So coming out of the Cambridge Analytica scandal in 2018, the company said, our fault, we are doing an investigation about all of the apps that had access about people's information. In that so-called app developer investigation, a bunch of internal emails and reports and documents were sent in between Facebook employees. Subsequently, there was a class action lawsuit against the company, and the company was ordered to produce the documents related to this ADI, to this app developer investigation. The company did not produce these documents in a timely manner, and they were reprimanded by the courts and the judge in this case, and they eventually settled for $750 million, $725 million, a lot of money. So when the company says we also need to be careful not to disclose signals which might make it easier for people to circumvent our defenses, those defenses are protecting whatever machine is going on in the background that the company knows is more powerful than what the public believes and is used to just trotting out these generalities that are devoid of any meaning or detail. And again, I'm not saying this just to pile on the company. I'm saying this because we need to know how powerful this stuff is, and we don't. And we don't even have the raw material to be able to study the problem. And Facebook has adopted a strategy for the past number of years of just dripping this information out only when they're forced to. So yeah, more details in the next episode about the class action lawsuit and what's on the record regarding that lawsuit and what it says about what the company might be hiding. Part of how we win in the next number of years is understanding what this surveillance machine is all about. Facebook was a part of it. Government was a part of it. By understanding how it's affected how we view ourselves, how it's affected how we view events that are happening in the world, how it's affected how we view other people. That understanding, I believe, will enable us to address whatever it is that happens in the near future in as productive and beneficial way as possible. So in closing, I'd like to read from the book, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, Thomas S. Kuhn. The chapter, The Response to Crisis. Let us then assume that crises are a necessary precondition for the emergence of novel theories, and ask next how scientists respond to their existence. Part of the answer, as obvious as it is important, can be discovered by noting first what scientists never do when confronted by even severe and prolonged anomalies. Though they may begin to lose faith and then to consider alternatives, they do not renounce the paradigm that has led them into crisis. They do not, that is, treat anomalies as counterinstances, though in the vocabulary of the philosophy of science, that is what they are. In part, this generalization is simply a statement from historic fact, based upon examples like those given above and more extensively below. These hint what our later examination of paradigm rejection will disclose more fully. Once it has achieved the status of paradigm, a scientific theory is declared invalid only if an alternate candidate is available to take its place. No process yet disclosed by the historical study of scientific development at all resembles the methodological stereotype of falsification by direct comparison with nature. That remark does not mean that scientists do not reject scientific theories, or that experience and experiment are not essential to the process in which they do so. But it does mean, what will ultimately be a central point, that the act of judgment that leads scientists to reject a previously accepted theory is always based upon more than a comparison of that theory with the world. The decision to reject one paradigm is always simultaneously the decision to accept another, and the judgment leading to that decision involves the comparison of both paradigms with nature and with each other.